Okay, so the module that I decided to choose this week was the module about gender and leadership. And the reason why I chose it was because I personally am a young female in a middle management leadership type of a role. And currently, where I work, my director is also a female. My dean is a male. Our VPs, mostly of them are males, depending on what campus you look at. But interestingly enough, our president is a female. So across the board, we're a very diverse group of employees here at the Kingwood campus. And it's always encouraged to professionally develop yourself no matter what level of management you are at. So I'm lucky enough to be blessed to work for such a great place. That being said, I will go ahead and start discussing the article, podcast, and additional source that I chose for this particular week. So I chose the article about women in leadership by Crystal Hoyt, and she discusses how current research states that women in leadership can be more effective, but that early research states that there are style differences between men and women. It's mentioned that women tend to be more democratic and autocratic, and men tend to be more interpersonally and task-oriented in their leadership roles. Women are equally effective as far as leadership goes, but they tend to be more effective in roles that are more gender specific to them. So education, social services, those kinds of things. And it was stated that women that hold management types of positions in more masculine roles like coaching and managing power plants, those kinds of things, tend to be more devalued in their roles. She also goes on to discuss the glass ceiling, which is very well known. Surprisingly enough, women make up about 50% of management positions, but there's this gap that is preventing women from getting from middle management to more elite and senior leadership roles. So she looks into why this may be. So some gender differences. Women tend to be less likely to self-promote themselves. They're less likely to negotiate unless they're told that they can negotiate, pay, whatever the case may be. And we as women tend to be less assertive. She discusses also how some women are breaking the glass ceiling. So women negotiating more equity in domestic types of responsibilities, and how women have gone to open up their own companies and move forward that way in breaking that glass ceiling. It's also discussed how we need to become more aware of biases in others and ourselves. She discusses this implicit association test where they gauge reaction time based on classifying two different sets of objects. And this was modified to examine gender stereotypical associations. So the first trial was comparing male or leaders versus female or supporters, and then the second trial was comparing males or supporters versus female or leaders. And if there was a negative in the pairings that were counter-stereotypical, so in this particular case was trial B, then you were basically kind of biased in a way, which, surprisingly enough, I was a little bit biased myself. So I'm going to, in my professional role, try to do a little bit better in that aspect. This leads me into the podcast that I watched by Susan, and I don't even want to try to attempt saying the last name because I know it's going to be bad. But she uses an example, which is Tonya, who is in a middle management position. Her performance evaluations have always been great. She attends all trainings and professional development activities that she can. She gets great feedback from her team, but she gets passed over twice for a senior leadership type of a role. Why? There's, again, this missing 33% gender gap that she goes in to explain. So what are employees looking for in these senior type of leadership roles? She discusses personal greatness, engaging others, engaging greatness in others. So these employers are looking for resilient, smart, hardworking employees, as well as employees who can empower others, who can manage conflict well, those kinds of things. And then it stops. So where is the missing 33%? She discusses that this missing 33% is missing their business strategic financial acumen. So what are these women bringing to the table as far as how they're going to help grow the company, strategies for advancement, those kinds of things. She shows that there's that gap in between middle management and senior leadership roles, where that's not being asked of women to provide, basically. She goes in to discuss an executive that she was working with last year, who had had two proteges, a woman and a man, and how he was training the woman to build confidence in the man to build business, and didn't realize the difference. She goes in to explain how the boards of directors, the CEOs, HR executives, managers, those kinds of things will go about changing those roles. And this leads me into my last and final point, which is the module or the article that I added to this, which is a new program that is one company is using to promote women. They're using about 100 women over the span of 30 months to assess where the barriers are, where the barriers are and what they can do to break those. So this program is going to include book clubs with leadership things, forums with female leaders, sharing their experiences, and they are going to mentor them on building confidence in different leadership roles, those kinds of things. And it is mentioned in this article, as in all the other ones, that some personal reasons that women don't tend to gear towards these senior leadership roles is due to family, spouses, lack of confidence, lack of self-promotion, those kinds of things. So in conclusion, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for taking your time to listen. Bye.